Hello and welcome to the Beckaford 2025-2026 Parent Information Presentation, which is aimed to give you an outline of the year ahead for your child in Year 5 and 6, and as well as a chance to find out a little about me. The presentation will give you an overview of the following. So it will tell you a little about me and my background in teaching and education. We'll go through a little bit about the classroom spaces. We will be talking about the home learning expectations for the year. We'll be talking about SATs for Year 6. We'll also be going into a bit of detail about my general classroom expectations, and then also transition to secondary school. The predominant aim of this presentation is to share with you what approaches we're adopting in Beckaford this year, which is going to support your child's learning, and my aim is for us to work together so that when they leave primary school they will be ready for their next steps. So I've been working as a teacher for 12 years. Initially I worked as a supply teacher across Devon. After a year I was lucky enough to secure a position in Thailand for 6 months, and I taught in a school in central Thailand with no English speakers within 50 miles. It was really fantastic and a lot of great fun. Then I returned to the UK and I took a job in Slough, where I taught in a 3-form entry primary school just along the road from Pinewood Studios, the home of Star Wars and James Bond. And then after teaching there for just over a year, I returned to Devon and I joined the Link Academy Trust, where initially I worked at Beans Primary School in Year 1 and 2. After 3 years I moved to Hennock Primary School, where I taught there for 6 years. I taught a range of age groups, initially Year 2, 3 and 4, and then changing to Year 2 and 3, and then for the past 2 years, Years 3 and 4. My real passions are PE as well as broader curriculum subjects, geography, history, as well as science. I've led many community and school events over the years, and involving the community and parents are really integral to my general approach, so I welcome any support / expertise you can provide. Maybe if you're a STEM professional to lead talks in school, or if you'd be willing to volunteer to support with reading, or any school activities would be greatly appreciated. So outside of work, I'm a very active person. I like to go hiking with my husband, who we've been married for 7 years. That's us getting engaged in Lake Bled in Slovenia on one of our road trips around Europe. I like to go cycling. I'm big into CrossFit and high rocks kind of gym activities. I wouldn't call myself a marathon runner, but I have done a couple and I'm aiming to do one next year. And I also like camping whilst I'm off adventuring and exploring. Something that I really encourage is children sharing their activities that they've done outside of school, so that they can feature on the school's wow wall. So if there's anything that your children are doing outside of school, please do send in pictures, email us to let us know, because it's really important that we see the whole child and not just the ones where we're focusing on curriculum subjects. Introduce you to our 2 learning spaces, which we are very fortunate to have. Initially, we have the main classroom, which is Beckaford Classroom. It's set up in a horseshoe, so there's a series of 3 horseshoes. The rationale behind that is all children are all directly looking at the board, and I'm able to access the children directly. We use neutral backgrounds to reduce distractions, a visual timetable on display for each day so children know what is happening. That really helps them feel secure and safe. We also have a weekly notice board with upcoming information, as well as a weekly visual timetable, again to support children's mental cognitive load, so they know what's coming. It's really easy to predict, so it really helps them maintain their calmness because they know what's coming up on a Thursday afternoon. We have resources available for children to access during the lesson, which they can access independently. Building metacognition is a really important part of the practice we adopt. I use the philosophy of the 5 Bs, where when children are completing a piece of work, there's 5 things that they use. So they use their brain initially, so they're really thinking about their learning. Then if they're still a little bit stuck, they can use their book, because the learning is building on previous lessons, so they should be able to refer back to see what's going on. Then there's the board, so the working walls are all about being really useful and for children to actually use in their learning to support their learning, so they can refer to that for different vocabulary in English or a method to solve a problem in maths. Then we have vocabulary, which is also up on display, the vocabulary, subject specific vocabulary. We use widgets for that to support their understanding. They use stationery in terms of handwriting pens, purple pens for editing, pencils for maths and drawing lines, and a glue stick. You may hear about a no rubber policy. We focus on this is the rationale behind that is a bit twofold. First of all, sometimes if a child has access to a rubber, then they can do a piece of beautiful writing, but they feel that it's not up to their standards, and so when I may come back to the book, they may have rubbed out all of their work, which is really difficult, because actually it's really important for me and for them to see what they've been doing. So that's the first thing. And 2, it really, as I said earlier, we're talking about metacognition, and learning from our mistakes is important. So just drawing a line for it, it's no big deal, and then they can just carry on. Also, it's important for me to see what mistakes they have made, in case, you know, it's identifying that there's a misconception somewhere. Growth mindset is a really key philosophy we're focusing on in class, and I really model and encourage this. As I said, learning from our mistakes. You may find it hard at the moment, but you've got to keep trying, and that's something that will interweave into my classroom practice all year. The next space, which is new for this year, is the den, which is an adjoining room, and it's a breakout space for all of the children to access to support their regulation, give them a bit of a brain break, a bit of alternative provision for those pupils with individualised curriculums. And again, it is a space for all the children. Some children will use more often, but I really want to reassure and instill in all of the children that it's something that they can access. There may be times where they ask to access it, and maybe it's not quite appropriate at that moment, but they will be allowed to access it at a later time. There will be allocated activities that some children will access, e.g. cooking in the afternoon, and yoga. We will let you know if this applies to you when your provision maps are shared with you or through meetings. So just to go over the rationale for the reason the classroom is the way it is. So reduce distractions with neutral backgrounds, as little hanging things and bright colours as possible, because that can be quite overwhelming for children. Vocabulary with widgets to support learning of subject-specific vocabulary, so they can really understand the meaning of the words that are vital in history, science and geography. It's a really clear, structured day. This really helps with supporting children's regulation, because it builds a culture of feeling safe and that they know exactly what's happening. We've got a breakout space as well, which we're really fortunate to have. As I mentioned, some children may utilise this space at different levels, and some may choose not to access at all, which is also fine. So, home learning expectations. So we really want to encourage a love of reading, whilst also making sure that children are getting really secure comprehension and understanding. And we absolutely recognise that it's important for children to have downtime at home, and participating in hobbies and sports out of school is vital, though it is also important just to really consolidate their learning specifically with their reading, spellings and times tables. So we read every day from 8:45 to 9:15 for half an hour. This is where children can do their accelerated reader quizzes, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. So I really encourage them to write their own comments in their books and their thoughts about the books that they're reading. So in terms of your time, you don't have to be reading with your child every day, though it is good if you want to ask them some comprehension questions. The questions are at the front of the reading records. There's some great question prompts there, particularly inference, as that is a big focus in the SATS papers. Then there's spellings, which are sent home weekly, and they will be checked on a Friday. Ideally practiced at least 3 times a week for 15 minutes. Some children may have reduced lists to support cognitive load, but they will still be tested in the same way. Also, I recognise that often screen time, you want to reduce your child's screen time, which is completely fine. So there will be the option to do spelling in the home learning book. So I'll provide home learning on paper, and then they have the option to complete it on Edshed as well. I would encourage a bit of both, but it's entirely up to you. The common exception words. So these are the words most commonly misspelt by adults in Britain. I test these termly. The children will be sent home with a sheet of words that they need to learn. Please practice these alongside weekly spellings, but it's a more long-term kind of focus. Some children might have some precision teaching happening in school just to really fill those gaps. So that will be going on alongside the weekly spellings. Then we have the times tables, and I cannot emphasize enough just how vital it is to know and be secure in your times tables in year 5 and 6. The maths is quite tricky, and if the children are secure in their times tables, then it makes that side of things easier, because they don't have to take so long working that side of things out. That being said, if your child's not secure in them, then it's okay, we can still work on it, though it's really, really important that they are practicing these as much as possible. Just like the spellings, they have the option to complete on TT Rockstars, and then I will provide some sheets for them to complete as well. I will keep this monitored, so if I feel that children aren't necessarily making progress in their spellings or their times table check, then maybe we need to look at what else we can do, but I will keep you fully informed of this. And then in the spring term, the year sixes will be sent home with workbooks to support revision, and again the expectation will be to complete these 3 times a week. So accelerated reader, we complete a star reading test each term. It says half term, but it's each term. Afterwards, the children are given a zone of proximal development range, or the ZPD, and then children can choose a book within this ZPD. Sometimes, as the year goes on, the star reading test may not correlate with the level they're on. So, for example, a child may have been reading and they may have got 80% or higher in each of their quizzes, and therefore they're progressing steadily up their levels. And then they complete the star reading test, so they might be on a 5.6, but their star reading test puts their ZPD at 4.9 as the higher threshold. So in that situation, I would encourage them to do another star reading test just to see if there was a discrepancy. If this wasn't the case, then it would mean that we would adjust the level that the child was on, which can sometimes be a difficult conversation. So just to make you aware of it, I really emphasize that through my experience, it does come right in the end. They just need to really focus on that comprehension, which is why asking those Vipers questions is really, really key at home as well as at school. Please can I ask that they only quiz at home? Please only quiz in school, as it makes it easier for us to monitor when they're quizzing, etc. If they get 80% or higher, then that's considered a pass, and they can look at going further up their ZPD. For smaller books, I say to read it at least 3 times before quizzing, just to avoid them rushing through it. For longer books, just read it the once, though ideally they should be completing it within 3 to 4 weeks of commencing the book. If you have any questions about AR at any point, then please do just let me know. So SATs, this is for the Year 6 parents. So it's held over 4 days in the summer, May the 11th to May the 14th, 2026. More information will be released in the spring term about what order it's in and all that kind of thing. I certainly agree that SATs and tests are not the only measure of a child's achievements. In fact, I would, rather they didn't happen, as it can apply pressure to young children, but they are really important as it can have a bearing on secondary schools' streaming of different subjects. So I really want the children to do the best they can so they can start secondary school in the most positive way. So initially we have the reading paper, which is a reading booklet that contains 3 texts that increase in demand throughout the booklet. And we have a reading answer booklet containing the questions that's what they answer on. Then we have a maths paper, which we have 1 arithmetic and 2 reasoning papers. 55% is usually the pass mark for the maths paper, and arithmetic is a really great mark earner, so it's a good thing to work on at home. So multiplication, long division, long multiplication, column method in addition, finding a fraction of an amount, that kind of thing. If you want to work on with your child at home on those, then that is great. And then finally we have a SPAG paper, spelling, punctuation and grammar test, which is why the learning of the spellings is really, really key. And you also might want your child to look at the EdShed for the Year 3 and 4 spellings as well, because they do often come up in the SATs paper. In the spring term, I will start some SATs support. There will be lunchtime for 30 minutes once a week, day to be confirmed closer to the time. And then I will also do an after school club, SATs club, once a week for an hour. General classroom expectations. So we expect children to be ready to learn, i.e. having their books, their reading book, their reading record each day. We have a class charter agreed by the pupils when we were talking about their rights, i.e. they have a right to speak, they have a right to be listened to, they have a right to do the best they can. So in terms of our expectations, that's what we refer it back to, as well as our school values. Reading recorded in the reading record. If children are regularly, if it's evident that children are not reading regularly at home, then children will be reading at 15 minutes at break time. This is because reading is really, really important, and our curriculum is so tight. I'm really limited with when I can read with your child at other times during the day. So if they're reading at home, then amazing, because that kind of avoids that situation. On occasions, children may not complete their work, e.g. maybe they might have been distracted during their lesson, so time may be taken during lunchtime to complete their work for up to 15 minutes. So they'll still go and get their lunch, and they will still have an opportunity to have a run around, as I feel that's really important. However, if they're not completing their work, it's a little bit of give and take. Obviously, if they're finding it difficult because maybe they're a bit slower a writer than their peers, then allowances can be made. But just to make you aware, spelling and times tables practiced 3 times a week, evidenced in the home learning book. If we start to get to Wednesday and Thursday and I'm still not seeing much evidence of that, then again, I will ask for them to spend some time at break time or lunchtime practicing them, because on that Friday assessment, I really want them to feel a sense of achievement by actually really doing well during that assessment on Friday. And children can be really despondent if they're not getting the results that they want. Pencil cases. You may have heard that I haven't allowed anyone to have a pencil case as of yet. This is at the beginning of September. This is just kind of setting the tone. The important thing is that they're demonstrating really positive learning behaviours. If they can do that consistently, then pencil cases can be used. So when I mean that, I mean not fiddling with things, doing inputs and focusing on their learning when they're completing their independent work. So pencil cases can be allowed when positive learning behaviours are demonstrated. And finally, transition to secondary school. So any open evenings we're informed about, we will share with you. They usually big transition days, etc., usually begin in the summer term. Just to note that applications for your child to start in Year 7 at secondary school are open from now, from the 1st of September until the 31st of October. You can go to the Devon County Council website or just Google apply for secondary school place in Devon and you can go straight to it. So if you have any questions or want to contact me at any point, then please just email admin.mortonhampstead@thelink.academy and they will forward on the email. I'm always available for chats at the end of the day or a Teams call if you can't make collection, that's no problem either. I hope this has been really helpful and it gives you an insight into what our approach is here in Beckaford, and I hope you have a lovely year. Thank you very much.